Hi everyone. Today I'm interviewing Emma Galland. Emma grew up in France and first moved to the US when she was in her mid-20s in 2003. I personally first met Emma when she and I were working together as consultants at PricewaterhouseCoopers, or PwC for short, back in 2006. Emma is undoubtedly one of the smartest people I know, and PwC certainly saw that potential. At a young age, Emma was already on the fast track, about to make her case to become a partner at PwC, which, if you know the business world, making partner basically means that you're the boss and that you're set for life financially. She was on top of her game, and I saw her in more client meetings than I can even count, just completely crushing it, inspiring people, moving people to action, developing strategies that produced lucrative business results. But just a couple of years ago, Emma made a huge decision to not only leave PwC behind, where she was contributing and thriving, but to leave consulting and even corporate America behind. This was a huge decision financially, obviously, and it also meant a huge change in lifestyle for her to do what she had in mind, to commit to herself to starting her own company called Goji Fitness and to become a full-time health and wellness coach. From a young age, Emma had a real passion for training people in healthy living and eating, and decided to chase her passions. Now, just a couple of years later, Emma remains on top of her game, but in a very different way. She created her own organic health supplement, or what she calls a raw vegan superfoods nutrition drink mix called Zenberry, which I literally use, by the way, in my morning shakes every day. It really is delicious. And she's actually helping people become healthier and more vibrant every day of their lives, teaching them to eat well, exercise, and to achieve their most aggressive health goals. She wrote a book and is routinely asked to speak at America's most respected companies about balancing corporate life and nutrition and healthy living. She's appeared on several major news programs and is, by all accounts, a source of joy to countless people, not only around New York City where she lives, but across the country as well. She's a huge inspiration to me, and I'm sure she is to everyone she meets. It's my pleasure to interview one of my personal heroes, Ms. Emma Galland. Well, here we are, Emma, in your beautiful apartment in Brooklyn Heights, New York City. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Welcome home.
Thank you. So a big part of my coaching is this idea that to follow your passion might mean going in a direction that's different from where you're going today and making sacrifices, and that money isn't the end-all and be-all, that you really need to follow your passion. Mm-hmm. I think you're a great example of that, right?
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. So we first met at PricewaterhouseCoopers when I was working there with you, mm-hmm. and you were about to go undergo your partner training, mm-hmm. right? Really about to make the big bucks, if you will, and reach the pinnacle of PwC and be the boss. And then 2 years ago, you decided to fold up your consulting tent, go home and start your own business to follow your passion for nutrition and coaching and fitness.
Yes.
And today you're doing all the things that you love, and you're immensely successful. So I'm so happy to be here and so proud of you. And I really just want to dig more into your example and your story today for the people on my website and for my viewers.
Sure, let's do it.
Great. So first, I'd love for you to take me back 2 or 3 years ago when you're at PwC and you're already so successful about, again, to reach the pinnacle, and you decide to leave PwC to start your own business and do what you love. Can you just tell me a little bit more about what that moment was like for you? What was your motivation mm-hmm. to do that?
So I think we all have different appetite for risk, mm-hmm. and I actually have a rather low appetite for risk.
Okay.
So I had actually started my business several years before. Mm-hmm. I made the decision to go for it 100%. And at the time, it wasn't a business. I just did what I loved. Mm-hmm. So what I do now professionally was really what I did as a hobby.
Right.
So I was confident that I would be successful at it because I already was successful at it. I already was teaching classes, and mm-hmm. I had gone back to nutrition school back in the days, and I had started my practice, and I was helping people successfully.
Yeah.
So back, let's say, the year before making the switch something happened is that I created a product called Zenberry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a superfoods, raw protein drink mix. And when you get...
For our viewers, I eat it every day. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. Little commercial. But what was interesting is that once you get into a product, then it's a totally different ball game. There's a supply chain, there's regulations, there's quality control. It's a little bit more. It takes a lot more time.
Sure.
So then I started to face like the decision of where should I spend my time. I will have to make a choice now. And do I want to continue at PwC, which I love and I'm very successful, or do I want to just do full time the other job? So really at this point, there was not a trigger in terms of something happened. It was just a matter of deciding which of the two I would spend most of my time. And what was interesting is that I always followed my gut. And as I was preparing for my partner business case, the year-end evaluations of the employees, and I was a director at the time, was coming up, and then I have to basically coach my coaches to present their files, and be there for them. And in my head, I was like, this is April timeframe, and I would have in May or June to deliver, or July even, deliver the results of their evaluation, and I didn't see myself be there. So come April, I'm thinking, am I going to represent people that I won't be able to follow through? And then what am I going to tell about my story? Because I had been procrastinating to give the partner business case. I hadn't given it. The partners were getting a little bit impatient. And I wasn't giving it because deep in my heart, I was thinking that I was becoming dishonest. And although PwC knew that I was doing my other jobs, and it had approved it, and it had been, entered in my portfolio. So my company was listed in the list of companies that had to be registered with the firm. I just felt that I was becoming increasingly like a liar.
I see.
By pretending I'm going to do something great and take the firm to the next level, but really, deep down, I know I'm not going to stick around.
Right.
So the moment that you start feeling something's off and your gut tells you you're not being authentic, which is a big value for me, you've got to take action. Even if not everything is really sure and certain on the other side, the risk of transitioning was low.
Right.
We can talk about step by steps how I did it if you want to, but it was just a natural conclusion. I just reached the moment where my heart did tell me you have to do the right thing now.
Right.
So basically, the moment that it was clear in my mind that I was leaving sooner rather than later is when I felt that staying would not be the right thing to do. Like I would not be authentic or honest with myself and with my co-workers and bosses at PwC if I stayed.
Right.
So it was interesting because I actually gave my notice and I said, okay, but nobody gave me a termination date. And so I had every week, it's like, okay, so when can I go? And it took a month and a half. And normally at director level, when you say you go, because we're trying to keep the knowledge. It's like, okay, give you a computer the same day. I remember sticking around for a month in the office, But at least my intentions were clear.
Right.
And so then we really worked together on that transition. It was kind of a really funny thing that happened there.
Really funny.
I was making the decision and signing the papers.
So a big part of your being able to leave PwC is that you had the confidence of 2 years of success. You had been doing this on the side and you had realized some success. And then since leaving, you've blown up that success even more. So I'd love to hear for you, what has been the key to your success? What's your secret?
Yep. Doing more of what I love doing. And the more that I do what I love doing, the better I get at it. And the more, clients I was getting and the more revenue. Success is different for different people, but for me that was really being free to create, free to choose my client, freedom of scheduling my work, play. So I think that in terms of success, if we qualify it in terms of that quality of life, being able to maintain, my lifestyle, I'm very hugely successful. It's funny because at PwC, success was really, and in any big companies, it's usually very number driven.
Right.
And your targets and clients, etc. And for me here as an entrepreneur, it's more as, okay, this is the minimum that I need to be able to attain every single month, right? To be able to pay all the bills and be able to pay the people I work with and the ingredients for the product, distribution, basically having, your business operate normally and then maintain your lifestyle. right? But then the rest, I don't really think about it in terms of numbers games. I think about it in terms of what is the next big fun projects I'm going to do. Am I going to enter a corporate America? And so I'm starting to doing public speaking. So that's really fun. So then I'm, I have targets like 2 public speakings a month, let's say. How many clients do I want to help? What kind of clients do I want to work with? Do I want to do more fitness and develop new fitness classes? And what's the new trend in the industry? So I kind of have all of my, interest antennas out, and I pursue really what I'm passionate about, and then the money just follows.
Right. That's great. So how's your definition of success evolved since when you were a recent college grad in your early 20s?
I don't think it's really changed. I think happiness was always the number one, and the ability to travel. So happiness was a big one. And then what's happiness for me? It's, again, freedom, authenticity, being really about to live my values without compromising them.
Right.
That's really, I think, what success was for me. And anytime I felt unsuccessful in my life, it's when I was compromising some of those values.
Yeah.
When I was forced to work on some things that I felt were not, aligned with my talent, or I wasn't doing a really good job because that wasn't really what I was meant to do. So I felt like I wasn't authentic, or I wasn't competent, or I wasn't creative. You've had some of those jobs where there's zero creativity involved, and for me that was always big. Or sedentary, and I'm French, and then I started working in Sweden, and then I moved to Germany, and then Switzerland, and then when I moved to the US, I always looked for those jobs outside of the US or within the US. So I wanted to be able to have that freedom of location.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I've always had when I was a student, because even as a student, I went studying abroad. I started traveling when I was 14 every year. Right. So I feel like being able to be freedom of location, freedom of on doing what I wanted, freedom of meeting a lot of people, all of this has carried through.
Yep.
But how it manifests itself differs.
Sure. So you talk a lot about this doing what you wanted and following your heart and authenticity, and a lot of people would hear that and say, yeah, but I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what authentic means to me. So how did you figure that out? What type of thought did you do, or reflection did you do to kind of figure out, this is where I want to take my life, these are the decisions I want to make?
It's interesting because if it had been up to me, the university I would have done would have been sports. Sports university, and my parents kind of pushed me into doing political science, business administration, macroeconomics, kind of, one of our French Ivy Leagues, if you want, where you kind of become a super generalist, and it opens all of the doors.
Okay.
And because I'm a hard worker, I did it, and it worked great. And thank you, Mom and Dad, because it gave me the brain and that I needed to manage my own business. But how what I do today carried through is because on the side, already as a student, I pursued sport. So fine, I will not go to university for sports, but I'll take continuing education, I'll earn diplomas, I'll start teaching. I started coaching sailing when I was 19. Wow. It was the French Federation of Sailing, so I had a whole year of learning how to teach children, psychologically of children's sport. So all of my life, I've actually paid out of pocket to learn and to educate myself and kind of create a side business. So when you're asking, what do you know what you like? I think I've always, even though I did other things to please other people when I was younger, because you live under your parents' roof and you do what your parents tell you, at least in my culture and in my family, that's how it works. Right. I still said, okay, but my hobby will be sports, nutrition, things like that. So I think I knew what I wanted to do. It was not a primary, it was kind of a compromise with the family.
So you just kind of acknowledged what you always knew about yourself to be true.
Yes, but I didn't put the words like this, I think, and that's why I have never been unhappy, because if I had not had that understanding, I think I would have been very unhappy. Sure. So maybe some people maybe in that place where they've actually lost touch with that passion they had or that hobby they had.
Yeah, that's great. So take me back a few years ago when you first started this entrepreneurial venture, when you were still at PwC and you're still doing it on the side. How did it feel for you to kind of take that leap and start pursuing something that you knew was a passion for you for a really long time and say, I'm just going to go for it, I'm going to go for the goal because this is who I am and this is what I want? What was that like for you?
Exciting.
Yeah.
So not very scary, because my plan was to make sure that I had at least enough savings to sustain myself, 3-4 months.
Yeah.
To this point, I haven't touched my savings.
Wow, that's great.
I know, and we're self-funded, so it's really good. We don't have any big investors.
Right.
Banks don't really lend anymore to small startups.
Right.
But so I just had enough that I knew I could survive if I needed to, and then I left knowing I could go back if it didn't go well. I had really, really good relationships with my employer. But super excited, and I was already in business. I already had clients, and I was already covering all of my cost of living with my classes and my clients. I kind of had the minimum covered. So in that regard, it wasn't scary. It was more exciting than scary.
Right.
Some people have to make the loop in order to start something from scratch. It wasn't my case, but it was really, really exciting. And I'm very driven, so I still get up very early in the morning. I kept a structure that was very much like what I had at PwC, because when I worked at PwC, I would get up at 5 every morning and I would teach my first spin class or whatever class at 6:30.
Right.
I kept those same exact classes, except that after teaching spin at 8, I wasn't going to the corporate office. I was going into my home office, which was sometimes a Starbucks, so at the beginning.
Right.
So, but then I would finish the day with another class, and I was the same one I had in corporate America. So I kept the structure, I just filled the blanks with other things.
That's great. So looking back over the last few years, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned?
That you need to be prepared, and you cannot make that decision, a transition of career, if that's what we're talking about, or any kind of decision you have to really, pros and cons, it has to feel good. That's the other thing too. It felt good and exciting because I felt that it was the right time, and my heart was telling me you're doing the right thing. So I think the biggest lesson was it's proven me right. Like I was right to trust my instinct.
Right.
So that would be this. And then I don't know if we'll talk about mentorships and help, because you don't do that on your own either. Although you're the only one to really make the decision.
Right.
There's a lot of people involved when you make a transition like this, and I think that's why also it's less scary.
Sure. So certainly you want to plan as best you can to take a leap or to do something you love, but I'm often given the advice that you have to be willing to make mistakes, because nothing's ever going to go perfectly. Do you find that to be true? Do you have to be willing to make mistakes? What's your kind of advice on that?
Well, so that's what we were talking about with the risk appetite. So although I have a low risk appetite, I'm comfortable with making mistakes. And I think that's something that we learn when we work for big corporations, where you have evaluations all the time, and it's a very competitive environment. And you're always stretched, and you always do a work you've never done before.
Right.
So you're continuously exposed to novelty, so nobody ever does things right the first time. Hence comes the coaching and the importance of other people in your life.
Sure.
But so as a result, I've done countless of mistakes in my career that were really an opportunity to grow. Right. And so after a while, it just become part of a process of change management, One interesting thing I can think of here, a mistake that was really painful, but really set me for success in my new career. So I'm still working in corporate America, and I'm also teaching a lot of group fitness classes, and I'm also designing classes for certain gyms that will be rolled out, and I was teaching instructors how to teach them. But I didn't really realize that I'm coming with that corporate mindset of continuous improvement, learning, making mistakes, and hearing feedback, giving feedback, improving yourself. So there I am, having this instructor subbing for me one time, and obviously we had very different different styles of teaching, because when I came back I had like so many letters and so many things. It didn't go well. We didn't like her style. Wow. We was just like, so then I thought, and he was a really good friend of mine too, so I was like really worried. So I sat down with her and I said, I just want to, blah, blah, blah. So I gave some feedback, and it totally backlashed on me. It was in that culture of sports fitness and group fitness classes, people kind of are more from the background of entertainment. They're stage actors, or they're singers, dancers.
Yep.
They really are performers. And so that industry is one of performance, whereby every time you teach a class, you put yourself out there, and
Right.
it's you, everything is taken personally. While in corporate America, it's just business. Well,
Right.
in that other environment, it's not just business. It's like your essence, your style, your music, your movement. And so I actually had management from that gym just sit down with me and say, you can never give feedback to anybody. You have to go to the higher ladder right away, jump over people, and just discuss the matter if some of the instructors didn't, their style didn't go, even if they're some of your friends. And so I learned how the culture was very different. And so I really learned the different sensibility, and that enabled me to be very successful in recruiting and other instructors to teach my classes, etc. But so these are really painful things that could have really making me end. In the industry, I'll never be, considered to help grow some of the fitness trends if I hadn't understood how different it is from corporate America.
Right.
It's really a show business.
Yeah.
It's a show business, entertainment, performing industry.
Okay.
Pretty different.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Any other mistakes come to mind to you since you've left PwC from a business standpoint that maybe other entrepreneurs might benefit from?
They're not mistakes. They're the thing that you don't know and that you don't know, that you wish you knew but nobody tells you about. So, every business has huge legal aspects and regulation you need to abide by, and you have a lot of registrations with the government, and you have lots of things like that really you don't know about until you realize that you don't have certain papers, or or you're late on some deadlines, or you didn't file the right form, or things like that. So I think there's more mistakes like this of things you forget at last minute, around trademarks, around use of certain words, around. So when you get into a business, I think you really need to have a really good attorney, and you need multiple attorneys, and you cannot trust one attorney. You need to have multiple attorneys for the same topic in order to be sure you understand what it takes. You need a really good accountant, a really good tax lawyer, a really good, employment lawyer, a trademark lawyer, I feel like almost I should have studied law a bit more because it's really, really hard to operate your business on your own. Even though, so I started to develop a network of contractors and start asking tons of questions and join a lot of professional networks and sign up to lots of newsletters and get some business coaches and that was that.
Yeah, interesting. So you've talked a lot about the importance of support, and even now you're talking about having a network of support that you need now that you're an entrepreneur. But what kind of mentors did you have, or what type of support or coaching did you have as you were making the transition, or even throughout your career? What role has mentorship kind of played in your success?
Huge. I have mentors for everything.
Yeah.
Yes. So at the firm, I had mentors for, of course, career path. And then you have some mentors that are here to help you about an industry, about a competency, about just what it's like to move up the ladder. So you may have some leaders actually as your mentors.
Yep.
And then you're gonna have, some mentors. So being a woman, PwC offered a lot of mentoring amongst women or amongst minorities to help you just have a stronger network. So there was that. And then mentors in the area of fitness. So when I started at Crunch, I actually had some people help me through auditioning with that company, instructors that were really liked my style and said, you've got to work for that firm, they're amazing, we'll help you get in there and we'll coach you how to audition. For 6 months they taught me how to audition, because it's a very competitive environment to, 50 applicants, 2 will be taken, and they're all performers. Right. So it doesn't matter if you're really good in fitness, what they want to see is, do you got the that will get people to come to your class, right? And so how do I bring the French, touch in there, and things like that. So I had some style, some diction, a lot of different mentors. I had business mentors on how to build my business. I had mentors for nutrition, for basically everything. And then now as a fitness pro, I even have coaches, even personal trainers. Although I'm a personal trainer, I have one for myself. I have different people that help me for different things, so that I can be stimulated to take it to the next level.
Right.
So I almost say that every step I make, I always consult, and I've always consulted, and I felt that it takes a village to advance in your career. You need somebody that's your advocate, somebody that's your confidant, somebody that really pushes you and, you know, nags you a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, I would say that I've had 20, 30 people in my life helping me.
And I think that's really interesting and really valuable advice, that even though you're an expert in something, you still get coaching on it to up your game, because there's always another person's perspective that can help you, and even vice versa, you can help them.
Exactly.
Really cool. Yeah, really good advice.
And I also thought it's interesting because I sometimes take mentors who are my competitors also. Because I really feel that I have something that's unique, and even though they may be in the same industry and they may have clients that are similar to my clients, they're still like, and that's something that I really liked working in a consulting firm, is that to move up the ladder in a consulting firm, you have to expand the pie. You're not replacing somebody when you're in consulting, like you would, let's say, in typical line organization.
Right.
Like, in order to have more partners or more directors or more managers, you need to have more business.
Right.
So, and that always stuck with me. So when I started my business, I didn't think about, oh my God, who are the other coaches out there? I was more interested in what are the things that are hot in the industry. But I wasn't necessarily trying to differentiate myself with someone else, from someone else. I was trying to, how do I get who Emma is really, like, how do I explain what I do better? And so I would seek those people in my industry, my competitors, who do it really well.
Right.
You know, really, really well.
Sure.
And so how did they get to shine like this? You know, like, and so that's, who were their coaches that I could hire?
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Also, so that's kind of what I wanted to say, is that it's empowering to know that if you have a talent and you follow your heart and you work hard at it, there'll be room for you. There'll be money for you.
Love it.
I really think it.
That's great.
Yes.
So final kind of wrap-up question. I'd love to know, reaching out to young professionals, what are the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give to somebody in their 20s or 30s who are trying to figure out what to do next? So maybe they're out of college and trying to figure out what type of job they should take first. Maybe they're in their late 20s, early 30s and trying to think whether to make a move and go in a different direction. What would be your top 3 pieces of advice that you would give to that group?
I guess the first one would be to be open-minded and really network wide with a lot of different people to know what's out there. Because when you come out of college, you have a good idea what you want to do, but most of the time it's been it's attached to what you've learned in school.
Sure.
So it can be really interesting to, if you're interested in a particular industry or particular type of work, to really know like the beginning and end of this work and what are the peripheral around this. So really open-minded, think wide. The second thing is being very intuitive. So you know that what I focus on is feeding for success. And one of the key to my success, and it's funny that I didn't say it earlier, is that when I started eating clean and exercising daily and sleeping very well and just being super healthy, that's actually the key to my success. Yeah. When I started to be really healthy, all of my potential was unlocked. And so that's an example, something I would ask young people to do is very early on, take care of their health, you know. And it's hard to do because when you're young, your health is good, you know, and it forgives you everything. But until a point where it doesn't. And so in my 30s, I burnt out. So I was like, you know, 7 years before I quit PwC. And so when I actually turned around my health, I was able to climb the ladder a lot faster. So I wish I had known that, and today I coach people in their early 20s who are actually realizing that they're not very happy, they don't have the energy they would like to do, they're very stressed about their career choices, but it really stems first from poor health. And so that's my second advice. So first, be broad, open-minded, and network, and 2, make sure that your health is great. Go to the gym every day, eat clean food, you know, put your sleep first. So that emotionally and mentally you'll be at your prime if you're well rested. So I think that's a really, really big one I would tell them. And even though you're not sick yet, you could be even stronger and brighter and have the best ideas if you're in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the second one.
Great.
And the third one is seek mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you need to have a conversation with somebody that can help you find out what you want.
Right.
So, and that's teaching you how to be intuitive. And again, that goes with being healthy. When you're healthy, you have a healthy gut and you have good gut feelings.
Right. Right.
But when you have somebody that can help you and ask you the question that matters,
Mm-hmm.
I think that really bring it all together.
Right. Great.
And don't be scared. Follow your heart.
Love it. Well, thank you so much again, Emma, for your time today. This has been so interesting. You're always so insightful and such a pleasure to talk to you. And I really appreciate your time. It's been great.
Thank you very much. It was fun, and you made the trip to my beautiful home. I'm very excited to have you here.
Thank you again.
Thank you.